Welcome to Spark in the Spiral, a podcast where ADHD meets creativity and we have empowering conversations that celebrate neurodivergence. Whether you're chasing your dreams, building a career, or just trying to survive the dopamine drought, this is your space to laugh, learn, and find the spark in your own spiral. Hello, friends. Welcome to Spark in the Spiral podcast. Today's episode 6 is going to be very different from the previous episodes that you've actually seen. Today, we're going to be introducing the Into the Journey series, where I'm going to be introducing you guys a guest speaker. The whole point of this edition is going to be to talk about how paths unfold, different journeys, different backgrounds, different processes, and how we reshape the way that we look at things as a creative and as an entrepreneur. Now, the guest speaker that I'm going to be introducing you today, we actually met 2 months ago in our MBI program at SCAD for the Creative Business Leadership Program. And we're taking foundation classes. And I remember that we've had a few classes together. And as we started talking in and out of class, building relationships, and as I started seeing him communicate and deliver presentations and projects, I found him to be a very interesting person because he comes from a diverse background, but also the way that he thought was very non-traditional compared to many other photographers and many other entrepreneurs that I've seen, which is why I thought that him would be a really good addition into him sharing his journey and process into this podcast. So without saying any more, I wanted to introduce you guys to Akash Das, and I wanted to say thank you for being here in this podcast. Thank you for having the time to be able to do it. And I'm pretty sure that as much as I would love to learn more from you, the guests will love to learn as well. Before doing that, I wanted to give Akash the space to just share a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, how you ended up here, and then we can move on to the first question.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I have been excited for this for weeks now. I've been building up in my head. And thank you for also explaining why or how I ended up being a person you wanted to talk to about this, because like you're talking, as part of the journey, it's hard to see our own selves within the journey. So thank you for giving me a view of myself from the outside, because I think that's a hard thing to do. So I'm Akash Das. I've been a photographer for 15 years or so. And in the last year and a half, I've transitioned slowly towards curation and entrepreneurship, a little bit working with other artists and other spheres of creativity. And yeah.
That's awesome that you actually mentioned that, because that leads into the first question. When I started seeing all your projects in your links as far as like curation and your conversations about photography, and seeing you now transition into the entrepreneurship role, it makes me want to know more about the moment you decided to call yourself a archivist or photographer or an entrepreneur. So I want you to tell me more about the moment you decided to call yourself that. And was it gradual? Was it a specific moment or turning point that made you realize like, okay, this is what it is? Or was it a different idea?
Great question, firstly. I think there's two parts to this answer. First is, as a individual artist, as a photographer, I obviously had my creative goals. There was a vision I was trying to fulfill in terms of what I'm making and what I want to do with the skills I have been picking up, learning, and the networks I've been creating for myself. And going through that process, I slowly started to realize that what I was performing or what I was doing as an artist or as a creator, as a photographer, it had a limited base of involvement with the community. I wanted my knowledge and the way I'm spending time to interact with the larger sphere of the art world. I wanted to get into curation. I wanted to get into archiving for galleries to see how, once the art is made and once galleries start collecting the art and museums start picking artists and artwork from galleries, how that process kind of evolves into a larger scale, and how an individual artist's work can become a part of a larger cultural conversation, significantly several steps away from the actual creation of that work of art. So that process made me very curious. I wanted to be more involved in the research on understanding how these nuances occur rather than just making art for the sake of making art. And the other part of that is a more personal uh, area, which caused me to diversify a little bit. So a few years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago now, I had a back injury, which led to like a little bit of spinal injuries, and I was unable to walk for maybe a year and a half. And at the time, I had to really reconsider the path I had been on. I had started thinking like, okay, what happens if I am no longer able to walk and move with equipment the way I used to? What will I do with my skills and knowledge at that point if I'm unable to continue the photography I was doing, as it was very physically taxing? I would have to take my equipment, go places, set up photo shoots, work in the studio, work with and for other photographers and creatives as a collaboration too. And if I'm physically unable to perform those tasks, I had to recalibrate everything I thought about what I was doing. And I did not want my experience till that point to go wasted. And I started thinking like, okay, I have been curious about archiving and curation, and I'm going to take this opportunity, however much I may have not have asked for it, but I took that opportunity to diversify and explore these interests of mine, and I'm glad I did, because it's brought me to a new set of avenues that I wasn't expecting before.
Oh, wow. So it just shows me like a part of the process was planned and something that you knew that you wanted to do. And then the other one was more like connecting the dots, or it without expecting it. And after the thought process, it like took you and got you to an outcome, even though you didn't look for it, like a serendipity.
Yeah,
like
kind of.
When we say good things happen on times when we don't really plan it, but it ends up being happen. So similar to that, which leads into me wanting to know more about the process, because you mentioned very interesting aspects about combining both sides of the process, which is very unique. So I would like for you to walk me through what's like your real creative process, whether it's for archiving or whether it is and the other aspect, but not the polished one, not the pretty one, but like the very messy or the real one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the two sides of creativity, if you talk about the archiving or curation side of things and the making of imagery side of things, come from very different areas of brainstorming in a way. For making visual art, my path towards that was also kind of twisted and messy. I was first a concert photographer. My main job, the first real photography job that made me realize like, oh, maybe I have a future in this, was shooting concerts. And I would photograph concerts, traveling with bands on their tours every now and then. Shooting concerts then led me towards documentary photography, which I really embodied within myself. I have never enjoyed something that thoroughly in my life, because it introduced me to the idea of real life research, or how I can inform myself about my own world without the knowledge being tainted by someone else providing it. It gave me a place outside of my own self to exist and learn. And I think that aspect that I picked up in documentary photography, that's what helped me connect the dots when I started going to curation and archiving, because that little bit of stepped knowledge making, or the curiosity for myself to learn more, and from a baseline, like not going off of any established structures, like starting from scratch, learning from scratch, like that set of skills brought me headfirst into the archiving and curation space. Because largely it's a similar skill set. One is just requiring me to be out and about in a very dusty environment somewhere far away. And the other one is me maybe sitting in a library and understanding those perspectives and interjecting my own perspective into that.
Oh, wow. So like basically connecting the dots between two different things and meeting in the middle where like you saw that outcome or envisioned that. Wow, that's very interesting. And I'm pretty sure that throughout that process, there was challenges, there was lessons, but it was that clarity that led you towards that. So that being said, I want to get into a little more deep when it comes to challenges and lessons. And it could be not specific to that one aspect, but just overall that influence that process. So what's one lesson that revealed itself to you after actually experiencing it or after actually living it?
I think the biggest one, this is something that is still unfolding till today, that I am my own biggest critic, that I can be my biggest supporter and my biggest challenge. And it may sound like a ego battle within myself, but it's actually more like me trying to outmaneuver my own weaknesses in a way. Because having spent time doing the things that I have been doing, I've had time to fail repeatedly, to see my own drawbacks, to understand my weaknesses thoroughly. And after that process, there are a certain set of things which are weaknesses, which are things that cannot be overcome in a general growth way. So my biggest lesson to myself is that the critic in myself towards myself has to be kinder. And that nuance, that relationship with myself, the being critical to being kind about what I am doing for myself and to the outer world, I think that's what's the biggest lesson. Like me learning about how to be kind to myself.
Wow, like now that you actually mentioned that, regardless of like we're doing this interview, it kind of clicks something to me, because I'm pretty sure you've heard that, where people, whether it's mentors or people that you know or friends, tell you like, stop beating up yourself, stop being too tough on yourself, or you be kinder to yourself. Because I know in my personal experience, like I'll hear a lot of that, but then I'll think about it like, I feel like a lot of times we have that mindset is because we know our standards, we know our capabilities, we know what we want to achieve, and we know how far we could actually go. So a lot of times when we say that is because, not because we're putting ourselves down, but because we know what our standards of whether that be success or what we want to achieve is, and it might not be visible to a lot of people. A lot of people might say, okay, but you look good. You've done this, but this is correct. But then deep inside, only you are going to know like, okay, but I aim for something else and this is not enough yet. I feel like I've had to work on that too, where like I'm appreciating and I'm grateful for the moment that I'm at, but I want to make sure that I'm still not stagnant or comfortable, because then I won't necessarily push forward to the next one. So I do understand that battle, which is a lot of times it could be an everyday thing or it could be a case per case.
It's a difficult process. It's a difficult process that you have to restart a bunch of times and to learn a bunch of.
Yeah. And I feel like it's one of those things that you don't have to have an answer right away, but as long as you're aware, then you know how to move forward to. But yeah, that was just something that it made me think as well, which is why I also want to talk about fulfillment. I don't really like to use the word success because I feel success is very relative for a lot of people, and it's deep inside how you kind of feel. So I want to talk about fulfillment. Like, what does fulfillment look for you right now at this moment? And has that picture of how you see fulfillment changed?
It's definitely changed. I think the overall view of fulfillment changes maybe once a year, honestly, because the goals keep recalibrating as time moves on, and what I see as fulfillment changes. Till recently, my idea of fulfillment would have been simply for my art and intention to be seen and heard, not even accepted, not even understood, because that is the conversation that I want to have. But being seen and being heard was a sense of fulfillment. Right now, is changing. I think it's in the process of changing right now. Right now, my sense of fulfillment has, I think, shifted to wanting to have something of my own, to start something of my own, be it a business, a studio, write a book, or a creative object or a business entity that I can call my own. I want to have something that I can grow.
Wow.
Outside of my own self.
And having that, if it's outside of yourself, like, do you feel like the impact that you would make to people or the message that you would deliver was through that lens of being heard and being seen, for them to be in that same shoes of how you actually view it or interpret it, for them to have that feeling?
Yeah, that's the goal of it. So it gives me a platform to say and do what I want, what I intend to, and what I have been preparing myself to all these years.
I like that. And I like that process. And I think it's very like what freedom means to us, like what satisfies us. And I feel like so many people are just focused on like actual stereotypical of like what success should be and what time frame and it should be like rated. But I like that fact that it's on your own pace.
And it's always evolving. It's always going to change. There's this cheesy saying that I've heard from multiple sources that once you accomplish a dream, you realize what's your next one. So there's no finite end. Somebody can say that this is my penultimate dream. This is what I want from my whole life. This is the one thing I want the most. But as soon as they achieve that dream, they're going to have a very clear vision of what's next.
Yeah, it sets you for like what's next after you've hit like the checklist. I will probably get that.
And that's part of human nature. We just go to the next thing.
Yeah, and that's how stagnation doesn't happen, because we're like moving towards that ladder, but you're achieving it first. I like that. More to the human side then, at the intersection of photography, archive creation, and journey to entrepreneurship, what's been the hardest or per se the loneliest part of the actual journey? And how do you stay grounded or centered when it gets heavy?
Answer your second part first.
Yeah, sure.
I don't always stay centered. Oh, no, I don't think that's a good goal for me to have, but to expect that of myself and for anyone to expect that from themselves, I think, is a very tall order for somebody, especially in the kind of world we live in and the challenges we have to navigate. So that though, I leave myself room to flail about and panic when the time is right and on my own time. But that aside, I think a challenging and a lonely aspect of this journey was the transition. Because at the time when I was going from photography, purely photography, image making, filmmaking, into a more research-based, indoor kind of work instead of being out in the field. That was a truly difficult process for me, because I had to relinquish the networks I had created in parts of the world and build new networks in areas and parts of the industry I had no knowledge about. And that's a very scary feeling. I don't consider myself having the natural skill of networking. I can't just go into a gallery opening of 300 people and introduce myself succinctly to the most important person and then get a show. Like I have known artists and people who've done that. I've known curators who do that on a regular basis, but a lot of it's trained habits and techniques, and a lot of it is natural tendencies. And they have been able to identify those natural tendencies and push that further. And me having tried that in multiple ways, I have realized it's just not a natural thing for me. So having realized that networking or growing yourself to network while naturally not being a very big social butterfly or having that angle of selling your idea at all times. That was a process for me to learn. And that was hard because I was coming in from a very commercially based photography industry into an art gallery and curation museum based, which is a completely contrastingly sterile industry. Things are done with more rules and regulations. There are more standards in place, how everybody does things. And me inserting myself into that was hellishly lonely. Yeah. And I'm still working on it. And I'm still, the people who I work with in the gallery sphere, they know that I am not like other curators in some ways, that I bring a technical skill set from being a creative into curation and research, which a lot of art historians and curators will not have. A lot of curators and art historians do not have physical art making or material skills.
Yeah, very true. And with that being said, it's great, like, people will know that. But a lot of times I feel like we live in a world where like we know like, okay, this is our weakness. I'm not good at this, or this is not like second handed for me, regardless if you're going to do it or not. But does it ever cross your mind, or do you ever think like, okay, I have to do this because people will assume, or people would think that Akash is really good at like networking, or Akash is really good at those things. So like I need to do it kind of thing. Or do you just flow by what feels right to you?
No, a little of both, actually. I have the slight advantage of time, that I have tried a number of these things over time. And to an extent, I am a believer of the phrase, fake it till you make it. It kind of does work. In the more successful networking circumstances I've found myself, it has been the fake it till you make it ideology that has got me through that. But the advantage of having a little time to work through that is you discover certain things you just can't fake.
Yeah.
So think of it as essential skills. Like I like to think of this as essentially my favorite example for this is cooking. So some people may not be good at cooking, or they might not know how to cook simply because they have not done it.
Yeah.
Now, does that change the need for food for that individual? No. They still need the food. Now it's just about finding another avenue to meet that need. And if they are able to, fine and well, they never have to learn how to cook. And if they are not able to meet that need from external ways, their only option is to learn how to cook. And it's one of those things that you can't really fake it till you make it, because it's an innate need that your physical body has.
Yeah. So getting that result, but finding a process or a way that works for you.
So you need the result, not really, it doesn't have to be the exact same path to that result. You just need a full tummy.
For the current season, would you say you are right now at rest, in a season of rest, in a season of growth, in a season of chaos or change, or maybe something that's completely on your own? Like, what's redefining what's next for you?
Oh, I'm in a state of abject chaos right now. Yeah. And if I can be completely candid,
Absolutely.
and we can also do another version of this if you need to.
Let's do the candid ones.
But to be super candid, I am in the process of figuring out whether I am able to complete my master's degree or not, or if I need to take a leave of absence, return to this, and I have to figure out. I'm in the immigration chaos of the journey right now.
Okay.
And early next year, I should be able to figure out which direction it's going. Until then, I've just learned to accept the chaos. Yeah.
So work around it until you have an answer, because I'm sure that's like, as a lot of us know, especially when we're immigrating or migrating, like a lot of times, no matter what we do, we can't control certain aspects, but all we have is to focus on the process, but then have options into what happens next year. Maybe things change, maybe the path change, and maybe this one could take to a better opportunity. So is that where you are kind of?
Yes. Chaos, pure chaos, but being open to randomness.
Got it.
Yeah, because anything can happen, especially like in this country, that seems to be the baseline rule that expect the unexpected. And yeah.
And that reminds me, I might not relate to a lot because that's usually like the quote that I would see like when we go to parties and stuff like that, but that's a different topic. I don't know if you heard it. Bad decisions make good stories. But I wouldn't see it as bad decisions. It would be like unexpected decisions or non-planned decisions could lead to good stories. Which is, I don't know if you've seen it, like when you go to bars or other places, it happens for a purpose, or like where people meet their other half, where people collaborate with other people and one thing takes another, but that kind of like clicks into this. Is there something that you have been drawn to lately or attracted to lately? Perhaps like an idea, a process, a mindset, or just something else that you feel that has been shaping the way that currently now you evolve? Like it could be professional or it could be personal.
Yeah. Actually it takes a little bit of both, like professional and personal, or even how I can say, the personal part of it informs the professional motivation that I have. It comes down to archives and curation too. So having working with people's personal photo archives or artists' own photo archives and a gallery's collection, I started to see some similarities. I'm working on formulating a thesis right now, which is discussing how our identities are curated, how we ourselves curate our own identities. Because largely in reality now, most people plugged into the social world have a social media platform, and you have a sense of curated imagery that we are each choosing to depict ourselves by. Now, 10 years ago, when social media was a battleground of freedom and everyone's trying things out and there's a freedom of expression and everyone's taking different ways, it was in a state of exploration and experimentation. Now, 10 or 15 years into this social media being stabilized, the markets, entire industries and markets being created via those platforms, the human aspect of it has changed. Now, it has become an innate skill in everybody's mind that they may not be able to define it or how they customize their own aesthetic and their own curation, their identity. But the way somebody chooses to depict themselves to the wider world using their social media platforms, whatever that might be, is a very succinct process of curation of self. And that path of curation, you're actually creating your own identity with that instead of other way around. Because, of course, your identity is creating what you're putting out there, but you're choosing your persona to portray to the wider world. And that has now become a very subconscious process. People are not doing it intentionally like people were doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago. in early Facebook days. Right now, it's very customized, curated to individual personalities. That's very interesting.
I agree with you, especially because it's like what it means to someone might not be the same to someone else. Just like how we talk about processes, it's like the results. It aligns with different things. Someone's results or someone's. And I like the word that the way that you say curated. I'm probably going to use that word more because I used to use a lot more tailored, but I'm gonna use curated because it's meant for you. It's like designed for you. It's not like all fits one.
Yeah.
Or just something more like leading towards that, like a fun closer. So what's been giving you life lately? Like, the light in your tunnel per se, or just simply life, like could be a ritual, a comfort, a habit. I know you have, a pet, could be that, or just something as simple that's just like making your days better, whether it's tough times or easy times.
My cat, definitely. Big shout out to my cat, Bruce. He has really become my true partner through this journey right now. He probably knows the most about me in the world at this point. Other than that, I've been really finding peace in cooking. I have lately been taking out half days of nothing. I would just carve out 8 hours of a day just to prep something I have no idea how to make, and then give it a shot and work around it.
What are some dishes that you've gone through? Like, I have no idea how to make, but I'm going to do it, and that you've loved.
One of them was actually two. Chinese style braised pork belly.
Ooh.
And also braised beef, which was, I still can't decide which turned out better. But my next goal, like the target I have right now, is borrowing a grill from my neighbor, because it's getting colder now. I start making burgers. I've never made burgers for my own self. It is gonna be, I have this vision of myself like standing at a backyard, somebody just like flipping burgers and passing them on to neighbors and stuff like that. So grilling and food and my cat has been my backbone right now.
I love it. I obviously like it's one of those that you don't really need a right or wrong answer. But I know another part of why, like when we connected, it was about our cats because I just got a cat in June or July. His name is Zeke, which you probably know. And at first, it was just like we want a cat because of either emotional support or just to have a pet or because we want to love them. But it's like we don't really think how much of a difference it could make to us. And I was one of those people before when I didn't have pets or when I didn't have experience at any sort of pet sitting. I was like, it's just a dog. It's just a cat. No, it really isn't like that. It's your whole life. And I don't want to be into deep, like, oh, they're better than humans, because I don't necessarily agree with that. But like, sometimes they're just not asking you for anything. They're just giving you without giving you anything in return. And they know you when you're sad, when you're happy. And sometimes, like, I think I mentioned in my previous podcast, like I was lost or confused, and just like him coming to me just lighted something like, okay, I should be doing this or I should be doing that with just nothing in return. And I believe it's one of the small things that makes people happy. For the food thing, I can't discuss, but, great idea. If you ever wanted to do that, you could come to my backyard. I do have a grill, which I don't know how to use, but I can borrow it. I mean, I can lend it to you. I know it's really big and it's cool. So you could do that. So Akash, for those that are just now discovering your work via the podcast, where can they find you? Like, and also what do you want them to see once they find you? What do you want them to know about you or your work?
So you can find me on my Instagram, which is at theakashdas.com. At theakashdas. And my website is akashdasphoto.com. And you can find my work on there. To people looking at my work as a photographer, I would love for you to engage any conversation. Share your thoughts about any image that speaks out to you. And if anything sparks a larger thought in your minds, I would say reach out, start a conversation. That's how things really can spiral into something new.
Thank you, Akash, for setting up time for this amazing conversation and podcast. And I wanted to talk to you guys about a lot of the things that we hear on a daily basis as a creative or as an entrepreneur, whether you are a blend of both, as I usually say, creative entrepreneur, or whether you're in a different journey of your life. This gave me insight, and I encourage you to reflect on that, where like sometimes, regardless if you have ADHD or not, regardless if you have an end goal or not, every single person's process is different. And a lot of times we tend to share only our pretty one, or the one that looks nice. I'm actually in a master's class right now, and I went to like an interview, and they were sharing about when we asked, what do you want to see? And they were like, I want to share your process. I want to see your process. I don't want to see what the process book looks like at the end or what the final designs are, but I want to see the messy. I want to see the sketches. I want to see the fabrics that you use. I want to see everything from beginning to end, because sometimes that messy process, when someone's going through that process and they look at the end of the actual final results, it gives people an idea of their essence. It tells a story about who the person is, who the creator is, what ideas were put into it, like what influenced someone without saying words. You could just look at it by knowing their process, which is why today I wanted to share like a different perception of a creative entrepreneur that shared his not too pretty process. But once you guys see in the Instagram or his website the actual results, it might make more sense into what inspired that. What from the creator did you actually see? What goes through that hill? It's like the quote that says, don't judge a book by its cover, but you could judge a book by understanding the process and see what actually was put into that, not just the end result. I don't know if that made sense, but if it did make sense, the whole point was for you to see different perceptions, different points of view. If this podcast clicked with you, made sense to you, or resonated to you, do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Also, I'm going to re-put the details in the screen of Akash's website and his Instagram account, as well as in the details. So don't forget to connect with him, and I will see you guys in the next episode.